With a major franchise like Sonic the Hedgehog, there's bound to be some projects that just don't happen. They don't make the cut. And that's what we're here today to discuss. I love lost slash unmade media. I think it's just really cool to see what could have been if circumstances were different. Whether that be from TV shows or movies or video games, just to see, what could have been. I always like the what ifs. Ironically, the show What If was garbage. But anyway, we are here today to talk about the cancelled Sonic video games. So the first one we're going to talk about is a known one. It is Sonic 4 Episode 3. Sonic 4 was meant to be a return to the glory days of the classic 2D platform Sonic, but with keeping with the current day models. It was a bit more, I guess, a 2.5D style in that way. The team was tasked to make these games was Dimps, who they made the Sonic Advance games. So they were familiar with the Sonic formula. It was made to be appeasing to both the older fans who grew up with the Genesis games and the newer ones who grew up with the more recent Boost games. So this game was designed to be kind of a way to get all the types of fans to come together and enjoy a video game, which it's a nice sentiment. Some promotion for the game included a trivia. Now, this trivia was done by pretty much there was a picture with a bunch of names on, and Sega had said that not all these names are going to make the cut in the video game, and each day for a week they're going to update this picture with a rejected stamp over those who are not going to be in the game. And they did it by every day having some trivia. So I have the trivia here. So let's go over this trivia and see, can you answer the trivia? So, question 1. In Sonic 1, how many rings were needed at the end to enter a special stage? The answer, at least 50. How many emeralds are in the original Sonic for Genesis / Mega Drive? The answer is 6. Not 7, not yet. What colors were the emeralds? The answers are red, yellow, green, blue, violet, and white. What was the general name for the robot enemies in the Sonic games? The answer is Badniks. That one. 50 rings is always nice, but 100 is even nicer. Why so? The answer, because it gives you an extra life. In Sonic 2, how many lives does a continue worth? The answer is 3. How many acts were in each zone of Sonic 1? The answer is 3 acts, not counting the final zone. What was the first game to ever feature Super Sonic? The answer is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. The original Sonic the Hedgehog featured special stages with morphing backgrounds. Can you name 2 of the animals seen in the background? The answers are birds and fishes, because there were no more animals. It was just birds and fishes. If you lock Sonic 3 onto Sonic and Knuckles, what was the largest amount of emeralds you could collect from the special stage? The answer was 14. 7 Chaos, 7 Super. Bring back the Super Emeralds. Yuji Naka was credited for much of Sonic's history. Oh boy. But who is the man that actually designed Sonic? The answer is Naoto Oshima. During his creation, what was the Japanese name originally given to Sonic? And the answer is Mr. Needlemouse. Now, this game did bring together fans, just not the way Sega wanted. Sonic 4 and its sequel were panned. They opted for a episodic release, which was a strange decision. Almost thought they thought it was going to be a big deal with each release. Every release was going to be like, oh no, it's episode 2 of Sonic 4, guys. Whoa! Sonic 2 released 2 years later than episode 1 did, and that brought in Tails. If you owned both episodes, you could play as Metal Sonic in episode 1 stages. Similarly to episode 1, episode 2 was mostly hated, and in January 2015, Sega brand manager Ken Below said in a Facebook interview that episode 3 had been scrapped. So episode 3, unlike the previous 2, was going to be developed by Sega's Australian branch instead of Dimps. They decided that they were going to forego Dimps, probably because the previous 2 were not well received, and they thought maybe getting a new developer would help, but that did not. Because, well, it didn't happen. It was also going to feature Knuckles as a playable character. So you can see the pattern here. Episode 2, bring in Tails, because he debuted in Sonic 2. Episode 3, bring in Knuckles, because he... Sonic 3 and Knuckles. What came from its cancellation, from the cancellation of this third episode, was Christian Whitehead and his team from the Sega Australian branch went on to make mobile ports of Sonic 1 and 2, and eventually led to the development of Sonic Mania. So in the end, we do get a good game from this. The second canceled game on this is Sonic Extreme. You know about Sonic X Stream, but what about Sonic X Stream? Written differently. This one has an E in front of the X. It was going to be a skateboarding game with the player being able to control Sonic or Shadow as they ride some hoverboards. Now, it's rumored possibly that this could have been what inspired Sonic Riders because of the hoverboard mechanic. If you look at the footage of the game that is out there from just the preview build, this is pretty much Tony Hawk just with the Sonic the Hedgehog skin. So you can kind of see why this got canceled. The modes that were in the game were going to be a mission mode, which was described as find the key to get the Chaos Emerald. That's okay. Combat mode, which takes place in a small skate park-like area with 4 subzones. There are 4 keys, one for each subzone. So I'm assuming once you find the keys, the goal of the combat mode is essentially find the keys, essentially, for each zone. First person to find all the keys wins, probably. And there were power-ups that were going to be around that you could use. And then finally a race mode, which was like the 2-player battle version from Sonic Adventure 2, with the player skating along a seemingly endless track a la City Escape. The third game we're going to talk about here is Sega Sonic Bros. Sega Sonic Bros, unlike the other games on this, was going to be an arcade game. Ooh. It was a fall and block puzzle game that featured 3 different colored Sonics as the falling pieces in sets of 4. Your job was to get them to connect with the corresponding colors. This game was actually in development before Sonic 2. Tails and Knuckles weren't even concepts yet, which is probably why we have different colored Sonics, because there was no one there. There's a yellow and red Sonic. You can very easily tell where Tails and Knuckles' design and colors came from. Looking at the footage of the game, it's similar to Tetris. It's like Sonic Tetris, really. Now, in a surprising turn of events, this game is actually playable. It is one of the few canceled games on this list that you can play. In 2018, the arcade cabinet the game was initially designed for was made playable to the public at California Extreme. Footage was taken, and you can play this game right now. It's available to download for your computer. So, there you go. There's some good news there. The fourth game on this list is Sonic Mars. Set to release for the Sega 32X, which is the same thing that brought us Knuckles Chaotix, so thank you for that. The plan was for this to be the first 3D Sonic game, with the objective being Sonic was going to save his friends at the end of each zone, adding them to the roster. So after you finish the zone, you save a friend, they are then playable. Now, this game is going to be another first as well as being the first 3D Sonic game. This was going to be the first big console Sonic game to be set in the SAT-AM universe, because the show was airing at the time, so they thought that they would make a game featuring the characters, which is, that's something that happens all the time, right? You see, like, Batman Brave and the Bull video game, Batman the Animated Series got many video games. So the characters like Sally, Bunny, Antoine, they were all going to be in this game. This was not going to be focusing on the video games. Like I said, again, this is going to be focusing on the SAT-AM TV show. Now, while the game was given the green light to be made, Yuji Naka, when learning about the game, shook his head and said, "Good luck." So, that told you what they thought. Michael Kosaka, who was the lead developer, left Sega as a result of issues between himself and Comic Zone's developer Den Lester. The SAT-AM elements were dropped due to disinterest from the creators, and after switching systems to the Sega Saturn, the game would end up being completely reworked from the ground up into what will become known as number 5, Sonic Extreme. You knew it had to be here. You clicked the video, you knew what you wanted. It's on the thumbnail. You knew we had to talk about Sonic Extreme. Of course, because of the rework, Sonic Extreme was going to be the first 3D Sonic game, a 3D platformer, but for some stupid reason, you were going to see it through this fish-like tube lens. It's awful to look at. Sonic would have been able to spin dash onto walls and that would have changed the rotation of the level. You would have been sick watching it through that stupid lens. Oh my god. There's going to be 5 playable characters in the game. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and a brand new character, Tiara, I'm going to butcher this, Bubowitsky. Each character would have had their own unique gameplay style. Knuckles and Tiara were going to have the traditional top-down side-scrolling views, so they probably would have been the two you would have played at the most. Sonic has that stupid fisheye lens over his levels, and Tails would play in first-person flight mode. Oh my god, that would have been awful. Imagine that. Oh jeez. Sonic was going to be equipped with a large set of new moves, including a spin slash, a ring throwing ability, so does he throw it like a boomerang? A ring powered shield, Sonic Boom, I don't know what that would have been, other than the fantastic song, and a bouncing power ball. Wow. We have a description here. This is what is the latest up-to-date description of Sonic Mars was this. After Eggman's defeat at the floating island, things returned to normal for Sonic and his friends. Robotnik, however, had not been idle, and returned with an even grander scheme to conquer the world. He has rebuilt his Death Egg Fortress, larger than Sonic's entire world. So powerful is its gravity that it can rip planets from their orbits. Already, several planets orbited the huge fortress, and Robotnik would not rest until Sonic's world was in his clutches as well. Already the world is being drawn to the Death Egg. Sonic has to act quickly to stop Robotnik. Tails has managed to create a working teleport pod that can send Sonic to the Death Egg. There was no time to contact Knuckles, so Tails will stay behind and operate the teleport pod, and Sonic will travel to the heart of the Death Egg and destroy it. But as Sonic was teleporting, one of the small planets surrounding the Death Egg changed course and intercepted Sonic. Sonic found himself on a strange world surrounded by badnik robots. Already the inhabitants of this world have been captured and changed into his evil minions. Robotnik had prepared a cunning trap, and Sonic had walked right into it. Everything had gone as Robotnik had planned. He knew that Sonic would try to get to his new Death Egg and had changed the creatures called MIPS into badniks. Then, by controlling the planet's orbit, he led Sonic right into his trap. Sonic must free the captive MIPS, make his way to the new Death Egg, and destroy it quickly. If he fails, the world will belong to Robotnik forever. So that's the plan. That's the plan description right there of what the game was going to be. It sounds interesting. I don't know about you. I think that sounds like a very interesting plot. The game was going to be set to be released around Christmas '96. So the game could go up against Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot, two notable 3D icons right there. However, many plans arose, including Chris Sen, the lead developer, being hospitalized due to an illness brought on by his own absurdly long work hours, and Christina Coffin, the programmer, who had been working non-stop to get this project done. She came down with pneumonia. Both had moved out of their respective apartments and were living in the studio to get the game out in time. That is insane. With both main programmers removed from the project, the loss caused the game to be indefinitely delayed, and Mike Wallace, head producer of Sega Technical Institute, was forced to inform management that the game would not be released on its deadline. The project was officially cancelled in August 1997, with Sega of America deciding to discontinue both the main Saturn version and the PC port. Focus was then switched to an alternate project, the Sega Saturn port of Sonic 3D Blast. Sonic would have to wait until 1998 to join the 3D realm with the release of Sonic Adventure, which was a fantastic game. And that's it. Those are the 5 canceled Sonic games that we're going to look at today. There is many, many more you can all find info about, but those are just the 5 that I thought were the most interesting to discuss. So let me know what you all thought of this video in the comments down below, and out of these 5 Sonic games, which one would you have liked to have seen the most be made? For me, I think it has to be the classic Sonic Extreme, especially with that plot synopsis. That does sound nice. Maybe the gameplay wouldn't have been too good, but the plot sounds really nice. Maybe we can get Sega to rework that plot into something. I think that'd be really cool. Anyway, that's gonna do it, and I will see you all in the next video.